All right, well, it looks like we leveled off, so I'm going to get us started. Thank you, everyone who's rolling in and joining us tonight. It seems like we've got some good friends here and some family. My name is Courtney. I run the social media and events at Grassroots Bookstore in downtown Corvallis. And today we have with us author J.S. Fields for their new book, Firefox in the Snow. And they are joined in conversation with another local author, Rosiee Thor. And J.S. Field is a scientist who has spent too much time around organic solvents. They enjoy roller derby, wood turning, making chainmail by hand, and cultivating fungi in the back of minivans. J.S., I have so many questions about that just from your bio. Rosiee Thor, what?
Diverse hobbies.
Yes, very diverse. Rosiee Thor began her career as a storyteller by demanding to tell her mother bedtime stories instead of the other way around. She spent her childhood reading by flashlight in the closet until she came out as queer. She lives in Oregon with her dog, a cat, and an abundance of plants. She is the author of young adult novels Tarnished Are the Stars and Fire Becomes Her, and the picture book, The Meaning of Pride. Okay. So the way that this event is going to work, just for everyone, is that JS and Rosiee are going to lead a conversation for the majority of the event, and then we're going to leave the last 10-15 minutes open for an audience Q&A, and you can use the Q&A chat box. There's a specific Q&A. You should see it down at the bottom for questions specifically, and we'll use that to run the Q&A portion so that you can go wild in the regular chat with all of your fun comments throughout the event. And then I will also be putting the link for Firefox in the Snow up into the regular chat box, and we highly encourage you to buy it with our bookstore. Not only will you be supporting JS as a fantastic local author to Corvallis, but you'll also be supporting a local indie bookstore that can bring events like this to you. Okay, I'm now going to let Rosiee and JS take it away.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, obviously, we're here to talk all about JS's new book, Foxfire in the Snow. It's an amazing fantasy. Do you want to tell everybody a little bit about it? Give a little short pitch.
So it's my first and potentially last YA. It was an interesting delve. That's why Rosiee got so involved, because I had no idea what to do. So I came off writing adult sci-fi and decided I was going to go into YA. It's a story with a non-binary protagonist who is an alchemist. They were born a woodcutter, didn't want to do that, decided to go into alchemy. And then, of course, because it's set in a pseudo-medieval European type setting, all kinds of shenanigans ensued. The love interest is a blacksmith princess, because why not? Why would you not have that?
Of course.
Because it's great. And yeah, there's the magic in it is based in the science I do as a professor with some very specific fungi. So that was a lot of fun. And it deals with, obviously it deals with magic and fungi and lesbians, but it also deals a lot with being non-binary in a binary world, which was really fun to look at.
Yeah, well, I definitely want to talk about the fungi. Like that's like,
well, I mean, you wore the shirt.
I wore the mushroom shirt, but the cover is absolutely gorgeous and has these incredible little spores on the front.
Those are cup fungi. Those are ascomycetes. Those aren't the fungi that are in the book,
but they're really pretty, so that's okay.
There's other cup fungi in the book.
But yeah, so obviously you have a background in science in your daytime alter ego.
This is a true story. Yes.
You are an expert in wood and fungus, like literally one of the foremost experts in your field, which is really cool. But we're going to talk about fiction, so
we're not going to
talk about any of that. But I thought maybe you might want to talk a little bit about how the science impacted story and how you drew on that knowledge base for the world building.
Sure. So the idea for the book came well before the magic system, and so I had the concept of Sorin, who's the lead, quite a bit before. And then I realized I was going to be fantasy. I wanted to have a magic system, and I've read a lot of Sanderson in my day, so I'm used to the really, really well-defined magic systems. There's no gray area in them. I was trying to figure out what I knew well enough to do that.
That is a very Sanderson hallmark, isn't it?
It is.
The magic system that's, yeah.
I don't know anything about music. I don't know anything about metals. I know about fungus and wood, and I figured in a fantasy book, fungus would probably play a little better than different wood types.
Yeah.
Although maybe that's what I'll do next time. I'll be oak versus walnut. Who knew?
There you go. That's the new Hunger Games. It's going to be the different wood types.
It's a better Harry Potter where the wand's magic comes from the wood species.
It makes more sense.
So I decided to use fungi, and I decided to use the fungi that I actually work with in the lab. So in my day job, I'm a professor, and I work with a really, really old art form known as spalting, which is a very select group of fungi that basically vomit color into wood. And it's a way people got natural color in wood back in the day.
It's much more beautiful than it sounds.
Yeah, so like it's pretty, right? It's pretty. There's like the fungus. They do all this with the wood. It's beautiful. It's been used in especially Italy and Germany since at least the 1400s. So it's got very old art form. And no one really scienced it real hard. That was my job. So I got to be the world expert in it. And so I knew like 5 fungi really well, like all scientists. We know like 2 or 3 things really well, and we're just really not great at anything else. So I put those fungi in here because one of them is called Elf's Cup, and it looks just like this, except it's blue-green and not red. And it's got kind of a mystical name.
What a good name for a fantasy fungus that you're going to use.
I know, how
It's
could
so
you not
good.
use Elf's Cup?
It's a very good name.
And it secretes a blue-green pigment, and it can be extracted with pyridine, which is a really old solvent made from boiling bones. And so it all developed.
It's so cool.
It was perfect for this. I was like, oh, you can boil bones to make the solvent to extract the color out of this mystical sounding fungus. Well, that's perfect. That's clearly what I'm doing.
That's what fantasy drinks are made of right there. So yeah, that's amazing.
And in fact, that's all that happens really in the first chapter is, extracting with the bone oil, the fungus, and then getting people coming in and being upset because they think Sorin like murdered a child and it's just monkey bones.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely like sets up some very interesting conflict for sure. And now we've talked about a little bit about the world building, but I am wondering a little bit more about Sorin as a character. Obviously, Sorin is like the central point of this story, and the book is very character driven. It's very much about Sorin's journey of figuring out where they fit in the world and kind of
it's not high fantasy, it's low fantasy. It's character driven.
It's very character driven, which is that's my favorite type of fantasy. When I first read it, that's what immediately clicked for me, and I was like, oh, this is a great book because you immediately understand Sorin's feelings and what they want out of their life.
And Sorin's 17 and has a lot of feelings.
Sorin has a lot of feelings. Big feelings. Mm-hmm. Feelings are good. I like feelings. But I'm wondering a little bit about how you took this idea of Sorin and who Sorin was going to be and built a world around them that was going to support the story that you wanted to tell.
So a little bit about Sorin. Sorin started as an emotion, really. And that emotion of coming from, so I'm non-binary myself, but I came to that later in life because we didn't have those words when I was younger. I'm old. And it was just like, that was just not an option. You were like a butch lesbian or you were a femme lesbian, and this is kind of where you had to live. And probably about 6 years ago or so, I've always, my parents were super cool, so I never was pressured to dress one way or the other. So the concept of having dysphoria was not something that I had a lot of issues with. And it's really interesting. There's this one moment where I had ordered some clothing from a company that was a little bit more feminine than I normally wore, but it looked cool in the catalog. So I bought it and I put it on, and it looked amazing, and I wanted to tear my skin off at the same time. And that emotion was such an incredible, like, first of all, understanding of dysphoria that I had never had before because no one had ever boxed me before. That I was like, wow, this is a really powerful feeling. I think probably other people have this feeling. And so I wanted to put that into a character. And originally when I wrote the book, Sorin was older. But then early beta readers were like, a lot of this journey is very self-discovery, and that plays better with a 17-year-old, which is rough because so many of us older lesbians are having that same journey, but much older. Like I'm turning 40 this month, and I went on that same journey with Sorin with a little bit less drama and no princesses, which is really disappointing.
Less magic, but with fungus.
Yeah, it's the same fungus though, exact same fungus. And so I wanted to build that emotion in. And also something that had happened quite a bit, and which is the primary antagonism between Sorin and Magda, which is how the lesbian community deals with gender variation, which you would think wouldn't be that big a deal because butch lesbians exist, except there's something that happens in the lesbian community when you go from butch lesbian or gender nonconforming lesbian to non-binary that seems to flip a switch to anger. And I wanted to actually explore that with a very well-meaning, and clearly it's YA, they're going to get together. Everyone's going to be happy in the end. But I wanted to have that, like, you know, here's a really well-meaning princess, but don't call her a princess or she'll cut you, who really loves Sorin. And Sorin is pretty sure they love Magda. But Magda, like, they were childhood friends, and Magda still sees Sorin as a girl. And Sorin trying to get it through that, like, just because I look like this, you know, that doesn't define me. And that, like, that character interaction, I really wanted to explore and actually have space to do it.
It's definitely one of my favorite relationships in the book. I think that it speaks so strongly to a lot of the things that go on in the queer community as far as gender nonconforming or non-binary existence. And the way that cis people often react to that, even cis queer people.
Especially when they're well-meaning. And I
yes.
think that's the best, like, there's no real villains. Like, it's just not understanding. And there's a really pivotal, like, it's not an actual sex scene, but it could have been had Magda gotten her head out of her bum. there was some top action. And, but like, it's like kind of a crushing scene because Magda is trying so hard, but is so blindsided by cis normativity. She just cannot get to where Sorin needs her to be.
I think it's one of the more powerful scenes in the book, though. It really does the work of creating that conflict and making it, you know, very real. Because I think that, you know, for Sorin, it's very real throughout the book, but for Magda doesn't really think of that conflict as a real thing until it hits and it becomes a problem for her because she's suddenly faced with, this isn't how I would have to love this person. This isn't the right way to love this person. And I have to regroup and figure it out.
It can't just be lip service. I have to actually see them differently.
Exactly. And I think that's really powerful. And, you know, it doesn't just speak to, you know, that romantic relationship, but also speaks to all of Sorin's relationships, Sorin's relationship with their brother, Sorin's relationship with their mom. All of those people need to start seeing Sorin for who Sorin is, not for who society thinks Sorin should be. And that's a really important pivotal theme of the book.
What I love though too is that no one is upset with Sorin for being non-binary. They just don't get it. Like, so no one's like, you can't do this, especially Samir, the brother, who's just like, dude, I don't care. I just don't care.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting way to approach it too, because I think a lot of people, especially people coming from outside of the queer community, think of homophobia as only violence. They think of it as something that can only be enacted through, like, you know, horrible, like, you know, bullying or, you know, beatings or slurs. And that's not how it is. A lot of homophobia or, you know, queerphobia is not about big violent things. It's about small, little details, little elements, microaggressions, things that happen with people that you love. And it's all about how they come back from that and whether or not they address it and are willing to sit down at the table and say, this isn't how I love you. This isn't how you want to be loved, and like treat it like an actual conversation. And that's what you show in the book, I think, really, really well with Magda and Sorin. And it's such a powerful, it's such a powerful scene. I really think that scene is super powerful.
It's based on an actual life event.
I imagine.
Yeah. So it was hard to write.
Yeah. Well, and I also think that it's interesting, you know, you brought it up that there isn't anyone out there who's telling, you know, Sorin that they can't be who they are in a violent way. It's all these, like, smaller scenes. It's all these smaller emotions. And the way that you've built the world building is really interesting to me, because you have started us off with a non-binary character who knows that they're non-binary in a world that is built around systems that are quite binary. And how did you navigate that with the world building, and why did you make those choices for this story?
So that was really specifically set up because I didn't want to, this world doesn't have any words to talk about non-binary. So I didn't want to talk about it that way. And so instead I set up a system that was all these binaries, and Sorin is conflicted with the mom wants him to be a woodcutter. Sorin wants to be an alchemist. And really they kind of suck at both. Like, it's really unfortunate. You're not good at either of them.
And that's one thing I really appreciate about Sorin is Sorin's not very good at anything.
Sorin's really not
competent.
Sorin's 17. It's real hard when you're 17. I remember being 17. I was trash at literally everything. And so having Sorin like, okay, I'm okay with this part of me. And so the reader is sort of brought into, we're just not going to discuss non-binary. This is just a thing that happens, but Sorin has to navigate this binary world and figure out that they're not an alchemist and they're not a woodworker. There's something else. And so the discussion of non-binary is done over here through the binary systems and breaking out of those binary systems instead of actually discussing being non-binary.
Yeah, I think it's really well done. There's so many different ways that you can approach types of like identities and the labels that we use in a fantasy world. And I think that you did it a really smart way, that you never really had to like come up with that language. It was more baked into the world building itself. And so I think that was really smart. I'm curious about your writing process. And you mentioned something right before we got on about how I outline and you don't.
I would really love to outline. It would make me so happy.
So how do you, so you came up with this idea, you had this feeling that you want to explore. How did you take that and turn it into a full story?
Usually what happens is when I want to write something, I either start with a romantic pairing, which is already with Argylum, interestingly, which is not it's got romance in it, but it's not a romance series. Or
it's almost a romance
very
series.
slow burn, like just painfully sometimes. So I either start with a pairing and I want to explore, or I start with a concept or feeling. And then, and this is going to sound really dorky, I'll sit and I'll write usually the first chapter with sort of the main character. And then I like hold auditions in my head for the other characters. And so I just like mentally have people come and interview for the parts.
That's so cool. I didn't know that about you. I feel like I should have known that about you.
This is how the crew of the Mercy's Pledge came to be.
This is
too.
so
I interviewed
cool.
like 20 imaginary people.
This is so cool.
And, yeah, so for this, it was the same with Foxfire. I just interviewed the people, and once I have the cast, then I just start writing. And it ends up being, I don't outline. I've tried, and then I never stick to the outline. And so I end up having probably 7 or 8 drafts before it's really ready to be looked at, because I change it every time I go back because I'm not entirely certain where it's going. All I know is the characters never change. The characters are the ones that I accepted into the audition to the first place. I'm like, all right, I got these 5 people. I've held
interviews.
I did, yeah. So I've got Sorin, and I've got Sorin's brother, and I've got the love interest Magda, who was, by the way, only had to interview like her. That was a clear shot.
Nailed it on the first
Magda came in, and I was like, oh. You can cart me off a horse any day. And then the moms, which took a little bit of finagling.
The moms are a big part of the story, and the relationship with the moms is so.
I want to be real clear. I have a great relationship with my mother. Like, these are not based on any.
I do the same thing. I keep writing like bad parents, and then in my acknowledgements, I have to be like, "Thanks, mom and dad. You're the greatest. I promise I'll write better parents next time," and then I don't. But yeah, no, it's so interesting. Sorin's relationship with their mom is a very complicated, very spooky, very weird relationship.
Yeah, the book turned out more sort of pseudo dark fantasy than I was expecting. It got creepy, and I wasn't expecting
it creeped me out. But I'm also like a complete wimp. Like, I'm the person who had to look up the entire summary of every Buffy episode before watching it because I'm such a wimp. So it scaring me is not really a high bar.
The moms, I call her moms. In my head, she's moms.
Yeah.
Moms, she ended up a lot. And the tattoo scene in particular was just like so unbelievably cruel. And I had not expected it to be that way until I read it. And I was like, oh.
That's the bit that I'm at right now in my reread.
Wow.
And it's rough. Yeah, it's definitely, it's a very painful moment for Sorin, and just like sitting with that feeling. I think that it's a really interesting difference between this book and your previous books, because let's pull up Argylum, let's pull up the covers. They're very pretty. Also available through Grassroots.
Yeah, it's a 4-book series, soon to be 5.
Yes, they're very, very pretty. But yeah, so obviously Argylum is this big space adventure.
Oh my gosh, it's huge.
Big romp through space. lesbians in space, also fungus-y.
Yeah, towards the end,
wood.
yeah.
Yeah, we've got some wood science, we've got some fungus, we've got some.
It's a lot of like wooden spaceship kind of deals.
Yeah.
There's real, like all the science in there is quite real. Although I have read a few, because occasionally I'll read reviews, right? And I've read a few reviews that were just like the science, pseudo fake science. And I was just like,
it's real.
Oh, it's so real. It's so real. I work with it.
Yeah.
I've got a wood 3D printer in my office.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, the science is awesome. But the romp, it's very adventure, it's very, hijinks in space with robots and not robots, but like weird aliens.
Weird aliens,
yeah.
Ball-shaped aliens.
Ball-shaped, that's what I was thinking of when I said robots. We love them so much. But this book, I actually think takes a slightly darker note. I really do. Like, Arjun books have moments of tension, but this book really gets into, I think, the feelings in a way that is very unique to, a 17-year-old, of course.
Yes.
But I think that's really interesting, the difference between this and your last series. And wondered if you want to talk a little bit about the difference between writing them, difference between how it was going from this long adult sci-fi series to this standalone young adult fantasy.
Yeah, so Arjun was my first book I ever wrote, and it got published, which is weird and wild. And it did ridiculously well, which I was also not expecting. But it was also it's so like there's, I don't even know, 15 POVs throughout the course of the series. And, there's a bunch of different worlds that they're on, which have different, because scientists, right? So then they have different calendars. So I have whole pages of like calendar conversion. So how long is a year on this planet versus a year on this planet? And how do the months match up? And what is the timeline? And after doing that for the first 3 books, because it was originally planned as a trilogy, I was burned out. And I really wanted something that was just real closed. Just like, I wanted to follow one person.
One timeline.
Yeah, one time, and I was like, I swore I was never doing, dealing with like the differences in light speed travel and how that affects time. I was like, no, just never, ever again will I do that. And so I wanted to go sort of medieval. I wanted to get rid of science as much as possible.
Which is funny because you made it's such a sciencey book.
It is. It's, I specifically set it in roughly Germany in sort of the mid 1700s ish, because I do a lot of research around that time period for the art that I do. And so that's that place in Germany where science is only just starting, right? They're just starting to look at microorganisms and they're just starting to understand chemistry and all this stuff. So it made sense. So I could like hand wavy a lot of stuff because magic exists. So we'll just kind of push this over here. But it was a nice to be able to deep dive into one person and only have one point of view. On the other hand, what happened was when you only have one point of view, as you noted, it gets a little darker and you spend a lot of time in one character's head. But I kind of like that because in this book, at least, Sorin gets in their own way. A lot.
Sorin is their own worst enemy. At all times.
Like they're just real 17. They have a lot of real emotions and a lot of real problems that need to be solved, but also sometimes they just don't help things either. And I think the brother is a really nice foil for that because he just, he's just always like, you're just being a jerk right now. Like
the brother is like quite like antagonistic of Sorin, but almost always right.
Yep.
And I, as an adult reading, I find myself going, yeah, Samir's right about that constantly.
There's that point, doesn't he I think he slaps Sorin
on
the glacier. And I remember writing it thinking, oh, that's really rough. And then reading it and I was like, no, Sorin deserved that. Yep. That was deserved.
Sorin gets in their own way quite a bit and really does that. Yeah, for sure. Well, I have a couple more questions, but I think we have a couple of Q&A things popping up, which is great. But yeah, really my only other question here is what are we going to be expecting next from you? What are we looking for?
Many books. So this one just came out, Distant Gardens, which is an anthology. So if you're an Arjun fan, the last story in here is Anla and M's engagement. It involves koalas. So just prepare yourself. You haven't read it, have you? There's koalas.
I wasn't prepared for that.
But it also has There's 5 different authors, and everyone, it's all lesbian. And everyone wrote a story from their current world and then a brand new story. So I have another story in here called Jellyfish Love Potion, which is a lesbian space opera.
Yeah.
I'm really good at naming ships. I've decided that is my superpower.
Clearly. Let's also show off all the covers for the Argylum.
Oh,
books,
yeah.
they're also beautiful.
So the 5th book in the Argylum series will be out in December. So that's 1, 2.
They're very pretty.
I did on this one specifically ask for women kissing. I know it looks a little weird, but honestly at cons, this is the book that gets looked at the most. Everyone comes by and picks it up. They're like, oh, women are kissing on the cover. And then the 4th one, which has illustrations.
Oh yeah, the art is really cool.
Yeah, the guy who did this art is incredible. If I can actually find one. So there's our pilot Meek in the book. So it's got illustrations.
Bring it up a little closer. Yeah, there you go.
Of the main characters. So the 5th book, which is starting a new trilogy within the series, is going to be out in December. And then I've got a new trilogy start to a new space opera, but it's more of a on a crapsack planet type of space opera that deals with looking at, it's going to have an intersex lead, which is nice because I'm also intersex, and that's really fun because she is on a women only planet. And that's really fun to explore because what the heck does that even mean? How do you define womanhood, especially for Ember, whose chromosomes are XY? Like what the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
And then a fantasy eventually will be.
I'm very excited about the fantasy.
Yeah, that one's going to be wild. There's dragons, no koalas.
That seems like a mistake and something that you could fix in post.
It's not finalized yet. It's fine.
Yeah. Okay. And then what? If you want to plug any other books that you think your readers might enjoy for Foxfire or for Argylum, anything that they would enjoy that's along those lines.
So we talked about this beforehand, and I was thinking about YA, and honestly, I don't like a lot of YA books, but I actually really like Rosie's, which is probably why we're friends. So we need to plug Tarnished Are the Stars, which is a YA.
I feel like a serious opera. I feel like it's a cross between your two worlds here.
It really is.
Kind of more grounded. It's kind of more grounded sci-fi, but it still has the spacey adventure elements, but also has a more grounded feeling.
If you like Foxfire and Argylum, you're really gonna like Tarnished Are the Stars. Also lesbians, like there's still lesbians. So it's fantastic.
Thank you.
I really like it. Also the cover
looks great with yours. They look really good side by side.
So we're friends, and they somehow the purples were really jiving with. And then for adult sci-fi, there's so many. But actually, you know what? For fantasy, I almost forgot. So it's adult, but it has some YA components. Starless by Jacqueline Carey is an epic adult YA book, and it has a non-binary lead, and it is for, I don't think Jacqueline Carey's non-binary. If she is, she hasn't come out yet. But for someone who's not non-binary, I thought it was incredibly well written. I devoured that book, and it's huge, massive book. So yeah, that would be excellent to read too.
Good, awesome. Well, let's get into some Q&A.
I noticed Greg discussed my evening tuxedo jacket. So thank you, Greg. I'm sorry, you guys can't see the sort of like the sparkly paisley situation that is happening.
It's a very good jacket. It's very nice.
And underneath is my rhinestone My Little Pony to complete the look.
Amazing. Fashion icon right there.
No one has ever called me that ever in my life.
And they never will.
I know they know.
We do have a bunch of questions, but first I also wanted to ask if either of you have read Psalm for the Well-Built by Becky Chambers. I think you both.
By who?
I think it's Becky Chambers.
Is that her new one?
Yeah.
I think it's on my TBR.
Okay, yeah, I haven't read her new one yet. I read A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet though.
I think you both would really like that, and I think that you would include that in your list from just now.
Okay, I will definitely check it out.
Yeah, I love her stuff.
I love her stuff. Yeah,
I just started it. It's very good.
Yeah. I love her stuff. It's so cool. It's like very super character driven sci-fi again. So yeah.
We do have some questions, and then I have some burning questions if there's some at the end. But first question is a fungus question. Which fungus produces the best biocompatible lube. And it's an anonymous person because they really wanted to know, but they really didn't want their name attached to it.
I hope it's my parents.
I think I know who it is. I love that this is being recorded and it's going to go on YouTube. Okay. So, best over, I can only speak to the fungi I work with. So out of the fungi I work with, this is
the best question.
Yeah, there's 10 points to this question. I'm thinking about the viscosity of the various pigments I work with. So flaming dragon fungus, which is in Foxfire, produces naturally occurring crystals. So that would be a bad lube. That would be very uncomfortable. Unless you're trying to kill someone, which, I should definitely put in my deadly dildo series.
You should put that in your deadly dildo.
I'm definitely going to write a trashy
it's like a series. Cozy mystery, but
with dildos.
Yeah.
Yeah. So not that one. That's real off topic. So that leaves, we've got Elf's Cup and we've got Golden Mango that both produce a porous film.
Those are really good names for lubes.
Golden Mango would be
a really good name.
That one is a little bit stickier. So I'm gonna say the Golden Mango fungus, which is Cytilidium ganodermopterum, it produces quite a bit of the yellow, and it's not as hard. So it stays viscous. And so I think that would be probably a good property. I don't use a lot of lube, so don't know too much about this, know more about fungus, but I would think you would want it to stay wet longer. That would be my guess. It does not dry upon air contact.
There you go, anonymous.
You know.
You got your question answered. Okay, the next one comes from Greg Halleck. And I'm hoping it's an inside joke because it doesn't make sense to me. They asked, has the 7-year-old succeeded in getting the shark to eat her ponies yet?
I know exactly what that means.
Yeah, so Greg, for a housewarming gift, purchased me a robot vacuum, which honestly has saved my sanity like 20 times a day. And my child, who is a future supervillain, the second we got it going, I was like, you need to keep your My Little Ponies. We have a My Little Pony problem in this house. Keep the tails away, from the shark, or it'll get the ponies. And then so she then promptly followed it around the house, going in this exact voice, "Get those ponies." So no, it hasn't eaten any ponies yet. But what did it eat? She was feeding it something. She was feeding it some other toy, and like Elliot with ET. There was like a trail of, and they were like something small, like little My Little Pony, like food snacks or something.
She's really putting that vacuum to the test, quality assurance right there.
Yeah.
Okay, Melissa asks a non-processed question. Rosie, you mentioned fear of too much violence in Buffy. I need to know if any creatures are harmed in Firefox or Foxfire.
I don't think so.
Any creatures?
Yeah.
Like people or creatures? Like animals?
They said creatures, so I'm guessing.
So, right?
The monkey's already dead.
Yeah.
Sorin collected the bones.
Yeah. No, I don't think there's any creature harm. The scary part in Foxfire is just there's like some kind of spooky magic going on that I'm such a wimp. Like the level of wimp that I am it really cannot be overstated.
In early drafts, there was an anaconda that had to get dispatched with a machete.
But that's not in there.
But that's not in there anymore.
There's actually quite a lovely horse in the book, Peanut.
Oh, you know what? One of the horses gets shot.
Really? I don't remember that.
Peanut, no, because Sorin gets knocked off.
You're right.
Okay. Peanut, the horse, does not make it. But
it's not gruesome.
It's not gruesome. And yeah, because Magda's horse makes it.
Yeah.
There's one horse death. It is not gruesome. Peanut does not suffer. It's like an immediate death. Peanut goes down.
Okay, there you go, Melissa.
Peanut is a giant horse.
All right, Peanut.
All right. Peanut.
Poor Peanut. Okay. Another question is, so I know that this is your first YA, right? What did you have to do, like mindset wise, for yourself to be like, okay, I'm writing a younger character. This is what I did to like get into that. What was your process there?
I had to talk to Rosie.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I spent a lot of time. Well, I'd been reading YA books for a couple of years and uniformly not liking them. And I was trying to figure out
that you were just reading the wrong one.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out why that was. And then when I realized I had to age down Sorin from like 30 to 17 in order for the arc to make sense to readers who aren't 40-year-old lesbians figuring their lives out. Yeah, I was like, what are the tropes? How does this work? And I think you recommended a few books for me to read, and I read those and they didn't suck.
Yeah, I maintain that you were just given the wrong ones for your taste. Okay. Because like, knowing you for several years, I know what your taste is in terms of books, and it was easy for me to find the right ones for you at that point. But a lot of YAs for very different audiences. And so, we say YA is this umbrella marketing term, but it can speak to so many different types of stories. So yeah, I think that was good for you to read some stuff that was more tailored to your taste and kind of more toward what you were doing.
Yeah. I think a lot of the changes honestly were kind of formatting wise. Like there's a lot of shorter paragraphs. There's a lot of shorter
I taught you that trick chapters. Of the when you have a zinger line, just make it its own paragraph.
There's a lot of that, but you can spend a lot more time internally with a YA character than you can with an adult character. And that was really nice because Sorin lives in their head pretty much all the time.
You can get away with a lot more navel gazing in YA.
Yes, that was nice. And
especially in character driven YA. Because you have to understand why they're making the choices they're making. And if you don't understand that, then that's tricky. And I think for adults, a lot of the time there's a lot more shorthand to why you make decisions and you kind of signal those. But with a younger character, they really have to go through the emotional beats of it because it's the first time they're ever dealing with those emotions.
And it's the first time for a lot of tropes too. So you don't have to be afraid of overused tropes like the one bed or the like being carried, like all of that stuff's new because it hasn't been, readers haven't been oversaturated with it. So you don't have to be quite as afraid of, because I was afraid of this when I first started writing it. I was like, this seems really old and stale, like this one bed thing. And
no, it's brand new.
No, like for a 15-year-old reading about a 17-year-old, this could be their first exposure to the traumatic / amazing one bed trope.
Very true. Yeah. Did you give Sorin any of your own like personality quirks or like things that you do that you thought would transfer well to her?
Sorin has the same. It's fine. Sorin has the same reaction to dysphoria that I do, which is like a arm scratching situation. Okay. They are just like way more depressed than I am. So just like I do not hit that
They're
level.
Also 17.
They are also 17.
So go through it.
Yeah. So the same reaction to dysphoria. So that part was easier, right? Trying to think what else they have. They have my wood snobbery. Very, very much so. There's a couple of scenes where Sorin is like eyeing the furniture or whatever in an inn and just being like, that joint is bad. Like they should have used this joint. This finish is cracked. Yeah, that's me. That is what I do every time I go into someone's home in particular. Like if they've got plastic cutting boards, I just sit there and I'm like, can I make you a new cutting board? I just like make it to you tomorrow and you could just throw those out because I can't.
The answer is yes.
Yes.
That's so funny.
So that part's, but then a lot of it, I say this about all my characters. If you take every character from any given book and put their personalities together, you have me. And so every character is like one piece of my personality.
I feel like that's usually how it goes. There's usually always a piece of the author in their characters.
Like Samir has my like complete lack of tact.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's true.
It's first of all, chainmail. Can we talk about your chainmail hobby? Because I would like to know more about your chainmail hobby.
I too would like to know about your chainmail hobby. This is one that I haven't been exposed to excessively.
Yes. So I really enjoy making chainmail by hand. I find it very soothing to do the linkages. Mostly I do the European foreign one. So it's pretty standard chainmail. I've done a few others. I did some costume designs for one of the OSU operas and made like fairy chainmail with, you guys are gonna like this, right? So I cut sort of stylized leaves out of veneer and then I dyed them with elf's cup so that they'd be the blue-green of the forest and then entangled them into the actual chainmail. And there were a couple different types. There was like a sash and then there was a breastplated chainmail for the archer. I just really enjoy it. I find it when you're watching TV, or I have pretty bad ADHD and I'm not medicated, which is probably a choice that I should change. And so I need to be doing things, and especially I do a lot of large motor in the morning, and then in the evening I need to be doing fine motor. And so that gets my like fine motor skills.
The exact same way, only I do knitting.
So yes, I really enjoy making it. I'm not convinced I'm really any good at it, but I do it. Much like Sorin, I perhaps have a lot of things that I'm not super good at, but I keep doing anyway.
I feel like that's a really important skill to have, is to be bad at stuff. Specifically when you're an author, because it's so easy to tie your self-worth to like your book sales, or like how your books are doing, or whether or not you're getting good reviews. And if you can instead tie your self-worth to like something that you're just not that great at, and it's fine, like you just enjoy it, and that makes you happy, like that's so much healthier.
Yeah,
like gardening,
yes, because we both garden. Rosiee is so much better than I am, and that is okay.
And it's not because of any skill I have, it's just because my soil is good.
Greg just asked if he should wear his chainmail to we're having my birthday party at Fogo de Chao. I don't know how to say the last name. It's a Brazilian steakhouse.
Oh, is Greg gonna be there?
Yeah, Greg's gonna be asking if he should wear his chainmail, and I think the answer to that is yes. I will be wearing a full tuxedo.
I'll be wearing my star suit.
Again, fashion. Chainmail suits. Here we go. Okay, my last most important question. Will you two ever write a book together?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Never thought of that.
Rosie's been heading towards middle grade. I feel like
probably not, only just because I don't really do the co-writing thing.
I've never co-written. I mean, I guess at some point we could try.
We could try. Yeah.
Could be.
What if we did a book where it was like alternating chapters? So it wasn't a collaboration so much as writing the chapters, but one of them was in adult and one of them was in YA, and that would be hilarious.
There you go. That's perfect.
It could be really cool.
Alternate timelines for the same character.
It could, yes.
Yeah.
See, we could do that.
Yeah.
Or you could guest write in one of my Deadly Dildo books.
That's perfect. Great. Done.
Yeah, I forget what author it was, but there was an author that had people guest write characters like in their already well-known story, like just one character would show up and it would be a different person writing that. You could do that. I thought that's kind of
That's really cool. Yeah.
Someday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe,
I put it into your brain on purpose so that now it will happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe we'll be thinking about it now.
Yeah.
It'll come to us. There will be
a flash.
There'll be, yeah.
Okay. That is almost all of my questions. One question that I do really like to ask authors is whenever they get stuck in their writing, do you have a process? Do you have something that you like to do? I know some people go out and exercise or do yoga or something. Do you have like a go-to that helps you get unstuck?
Well, I've been stuck for like a year, which has not been great. I have found that my writing process, I do really, really well when I have a deadline, and when I don't have a deadline, I basically crumble. So when I'm stuck, like when I really just can't get the motivation to work, or I just kind of feel like nothing's sticking, I will ask my agent to set a deadline for me, which is what I just did. But usually when I'm stuck, it's because I've taken a wrong turn. If I'm in the process of writing, if I haven't started yet, then usually I just still need to ruminate on it a little bit more. But if I get stuck after I've started something, usually it's because I've either started in the wrong place or I've taken a wrong turn for the character, and I need to dial back to the last moment that it still felt like I was writing the right story, and then make a different choice. I don't know about you.
I tend to punish myself. I think if I'm stuck and I've been stuck for a day or two, I will just sit down and tell myself I'm not allowed to leave the chair until I've written past the problem. And since I need to move a lot or I get real ragey, that's a high motivation for me, because I'll be at this place where I'm just like rocking, and so I'll just start writing,
So
even if it's trash. But eventually, because I'm a discovery writer, what happens is that eventually some part of that trash will move me through it and I'll be able to salvage something about it. But sometimes it'll take me 5,000 or 6,000 words of absolute garbage before I realize where I needed to go. But particularly if I have to go to the bathroom, it's very motivating to get through that problem.
Yes, that's one way to do it.
I don't know if that's a healthy way to do it. I don't know if I would recommend that.
But you have so many successful books. So, I mean,
I mean, my thing is that, like, you know, if someone is looking to us for advice on that nothing is going to work the same for every person. And you have to find what works best for you, because what works for me and what works for JS is not going to be the same thing that works for someone else. And, you know, finding your own process and figuring out what is going to work best for you is a process in and of itself. It's a whole journey of figuring it out. And the neat thing is that you have to refigure it out every time you write a book.
Every book is different.
Every book is different.
And yeah, I swear, like, because I just finished drafting the 5th Argyllen book and I just sat there going, I don't understand. This is the 5th book in this series. You would think that this should not be hard to write anymore. The world is built, the characters are established. And yet I sit there staring at the little blinking cursor icon, not knowing what to write.
Yep. The process of writing a book, it's different for every book. Somebody said that after you've finished writing and revising a book, you're now an expert on how to write that book. But you're not an expert on how to write the next book, and you still have to figure that out, which is such a scam. Like,
JS, do you have a absolute favorite line that you wrote in Firefox? Something that you're just like sticks out to you as like your funniest line or your best line that you like?
Oh my gosh. Just get a little reference material. There are a couple of funny lines in here.
I was gonna say there's a good one about Peanut. I can't remember.
That whole horse scene is hilarious, where Sorin's looking at Peanut.
Sorin's not real confident about riding a horse. And Peanut the horse isn't real confident about Sorin riding a horse either.
How about, can I change the question to my favorite scene?
Yes.
So I really like the, I mean, there's lots of good scenes, but I really like the one where right after Sorin falls off Peanut the first time. Sorin's not a good writer. Sorin falls off Peanut, and then immediately thereafter, Magda picks Sorin up in her arms,
like bridal
style, and carries her over to her horse. And it's just like, it's the tension somehow, just because of Magda's personality and how she's just like, yeah, okay. Just like picking Sorin up, and Sorin's like, you just put me back on the horse. Like, and Magda's like, no, getting on my horse. We're going to ride really close together for the next like 3 hours. I really enjoy that.
Peanut, it's just such a character. Peanut the horse.
All right.
I will appreciate that. We've got Melissa says, JS, don't do the pee thing when you hit menopause. Bonus, several bonuses. 1, I don't have a uterus. And which, you know, fantastic on that. And 2, I have too much testosterone to feel the effects of menopause, apparently.
Amazing.
Intersex bodies for the win.
It's amazing. So that's a big pro right there.
This is going to be on YouTube now, and someone's going to see this, and they're just going to know way too much about my reproductive system. And I'm so sorry.
They're going to be like, this is such a fun conversation. Fun, lively conversation. We've talked about mushroom lube. We've talked about menopause. We've talked about dead horses. We've covered so much ground.
Poor Peanut.
I think Sorin even has a moment where like Peanut's blood is freezing to the ground.
No,
Sorin is like so caught up in themselves that there's like not even any empathy for the horse. It's just like, oh well. And I fell off the horse. And now I'm like, Magda's gonna think that I'm like not a good writer. You're not a good writer. You fell off the fucking horse.
Oh, Sorin.
It's fine. There will be, this is a duology. So I've started drafting the second one. So I
didn't know that.
Yeah, because the ending's kind of abrupt.
I kind of wondered, but I'm so excited.
Yeah, it starts with a ball because I had to hit that YA trope. So I didn't hit it in the first one. So I think
have a fancy party.
There's going to be a fancy party, a fancy ball in the palace. Magda will be in some sort of chainmail dress situation.
It's good.
And
combining your hobbies.
Yes, and Sorin will of course be fretting over what to wear because they haven't really learned anything yet. by the
Absolutely.
end of it, I was hoping to have another ball where Sorin is confident in
Yeah,
their,
that's
in
good.
their
That's a
clothing.
good little bookend.
Mhm. Parties on
Yeah.
either side.
Well, so now you know what to look forward to.
Chainmail dresses.
Balls.
Chainmail dresses.
Maybe I'll make one.
That's a good idea.
Definitely. You should definitely
Wow.
have one. And then you could like use it in your promo, you know? Be like, this comes into the story somewhere.
Take some great like fantasy photos.
In my wild backyard.
Mhm.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. This is a good plan.
It's good.
It's better than our when we were gonna like live action act out the
Oh yeah,
Argyle
that
book.
was
That was hilarious.
yeah.
This Greg,
We occasionally drink and get bad ideas together.
that's how the writing process really works.
Very bad.
That's the secret to the writing process.
Drinking?
Drinking and bad ideas.
To a lot of things.
I can't write well. I cannot write like not sober. I have to be totally sober to write. I like have a drink and I'm just like toasted.
This is a really important actually thing to talk about because I have whenever I'm really stuck, I will get drunk and I write whole chapters and I don't remember them and I perpetually don't remember them. So there's still several chapters in Argyle and Third Dawn that every time I read them, I'm like, did I write this? Because for whatever reason, the drunk chapters, they don't stick with me.
See, I have that, but with like stress chapters. So I will get to like, so I do this thing whenever I'm on deadline is I take my time with like the first half of the book and I do like a good job. And then I get to the second half and I look at my deadline and I panic. And so I panic write the rest of it. And I've done like, there are times where I will stay up until like 3 a.m. and I've written like 10,000 words in a day. And I'm like in a haze. And then I'll reread the book later and I'll be like, I don't remember writing this. Again, not healthy.
So writing drunk or writing stressed, apparently also really not helpful.
Yeah.
Or they're helpful, not healthy coping mechanisms. But
Yeah.
No one said writing or writers were ever healthy.
Yeah, writing may not be the most healthy.
We could be relaxing in our free time, but we're not.
Yeah.
We're writing.
Makes sense.
We've chosen to suffer.
We've done this to ourselves. Just like Sorin. We're making bad choices.
Full circle.
Yeah, there you go.
I really want to read this koala story. I know that I haven't read the Argylum series, but you just threw koala out there and I was like, I'm very intrigued.
Yeah, same. I have to read the koala story.
It's part of so I have a Patreon, which every month I put up like a little short story and they're usually in one of the published universes. So they're in Foxfire, they're in Argylum. And so it was originally a Valentine's Day short and I wrote it in a coffee shop while I was hanging out with a friend and I needed to get it done because I think I had like 2 days before I needed to put it up on the Patreon. And so I needed I don't want to give any spoilers, but I needed a pollination vector. And I was really, because it's got trees on, big surprise there's trees, major part. And I needed a pollination vector for the strange tree occurrences. And I don't remember, I don't know if like there was a sign that had koalas or if my friend mentioned koalas, but
You were just
koalas
like, there we
came
go.
up and I was like, and why wouldn't there be koalas? So they end up there because Argylum has opened up to the like general galaxy and there's some sort of shipping logistics problem. And so spaceships of koalas keep getting sent to Argylum. There's no one there, no one in them, just koalas, and they don't know what to do with them. So they keep opening them up and Argylum is mostly forest. And so now the forests are filled with koalas who are doing some fun pollination.
That's amazing. I love it. I love that there's a science reason.
That seems very on point.
That's why I expected anything less.
It's all science,
Yeah.
all science all the time.
All the time.
Koalas as a pollination vector. That's intriguing, I have to say.
Yeah, I'm gonna read it. Find out.
I actually didn't, this just occurred to me. So in book 5, which comes after that short, I didn't actually address the koala problem. So I should probably edit
Maybe
that, probably add a little, we did finally get rid of the koalas.
Oh no.
Send them back to the planet they were supposed to go to.
I think there's a line in there somewhere about like Earth trying to find other places for its endangered species and like but they got rerouted. Like they were supposed to go to Mars, but they went through the wrong wormhole.
There you go.
Or something like that.
There you go. That makes perfect sense.
It's
No.
not weird at all.
Greg asked in the Q&A, so it is a question. Regarding fantasy photo shoot in feral backyard, how many swords should I bring?
All of them.
All of them. All the swords.
Every sword.
All
I
right.
would like to hold them.
Rosie will apparently be taking part of this.
Just gonna be the props organizer.
Sword master?
Yes, sword master.
You can make you a t-shirt.
Great. That's all I've ever wanted.
You can wear some of my elfin chainmail. I think I
That's
still have it.
actually more what I wanted.
Okay.
That's better. Let's do that.
You know, this is a really funny story about that chainmail. So I had to fit it to the actors, right? There were 4 of them. And, but I need to have their bodies basically there all the time. So I made the duct tape forms, which is just, you put on a white t-shirt and you wrap their torso in duct tape and then you cut up and then they can go and then you stuff it with paper. And then it's just a fleshed out torso. So these 4 human torsos sat on the couch in my office for like 4 months while I was making the chainmail. It really upset people. People would walk by my office and see these like armless, headless, like fully like, because there were 3 women. So there were busty ones. And then there was like a fairly built gentleman. And they'd come past, they'd walk past my door and then they stop and they'd come back and their eyes would get real concerned. And sometimes they stop and talk to me. And sometimes they just, no.
Couldn't handle it.
Nope. And I'd be sitting there like with the needle nose pliers, chain mailing. And so every so often they'd be like, so what is this for? And I'd be like, oh, I'm making chainmail, fairy chainmail. I'm a professor, right? In my university office, sitting here making chainmail in the wood science and engineering department. Very few people ask follow-up questions.
I would ask follow-up questions, but I'd be very interested.
That's amazing. Oh, we got another question. Wow. You have a very lively audience here.
That's good.
So you know. Melissa.
The answer is just Greg.
I mean, mostly Greg, but he has some good questions. But Melissa wants to know, what date is your birthday? I'm the 13th, born on a Wednesday.
I am the 20th. I have no idea what day I was
We have the
born.
same birthday as my mom.
Is she still here?
No, she
She left.
And my cousin also left.
Oh,
I think
okay.
we talked about lesbians for a little bit too long.
Yes,
We got
October 20th. October 20th. So if you're near the Portland area.
Oh, no, October. Never mind.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was November already.
You've already skipped my birthday.
Yeah.
Slow
So if
down.
you want to come eat a lot of meat on swords
Yeah.
served to you by people in very fancy pants, the weekend after October
Yeah.
20th, we're eating meat on swords, but dressing
Fancy.
fancy.
You have such a great way of describing things. Like people in fancy pants serving you things.
They are. They're like
They're very fancy.
billowy kind of situation.
I want some of the pants.
Well, I bet they probably get them out of like a restaurant
Yeah,
supply.
probably. Yeah.
Sure, we could make this
We'll
happen.
find it. Yeah.
We can Google it.
Yeah. We'll make it
They're probably
happen.
on eBay. Yeah.
eBay.
Just to add to our very fashionable collection of clothes
Yes.
between the two of us, you and your velvet suit.
Yes. It's gonna be good.
Mm-hmm. They actually hire actors? Really? That makes me kind of sad. I thought they were actually servers.
Oh.
I don't
You
know.
know what? I think that's good. That's good. That gives
Good.
actors some jobs.
Here, carry around this meat on a sword.
Yeah. In Portland, I feel like there's a lot of actors who need jobs and they can put that on their resume as an acting job. That's great.
All I know is I'm taking a whole bunch of Fogo virgins and then I'm going to make sure that they are staying away from the salad bar, staying away from the chicken wings,
Meat on swords.
picanha, and filet mignon. That's going to be our go-to. Got to get your money's worth. Just really off topic. I really like meat on swords, everyone. It's like a really important aspect of my life. I am a lesbian who writes about wood and researches wood anatomy, and I enjoy meat on swords.
I think you need to update your bio there.
Because you can't handle it.
And on that note,
On that note, it is 8:00. Well, I wish you a very happy early birthday and thank you for doing this event with us. I've had a great time hosting you guys in the name of Grassroots. And since you both since you both are local, please come in anytime and sign your copies of your books that we have. I'm sure people buying them would love that. To the people that are still here with us, you can buy any of their books. I think we have all of your books, both of you. in store right now.
Most of mine.
Okay, great. I'll stop by and sign them.
Okay.
I wasn't sure if you had mine in stock.
And if in the audience, if you want, you can purchase the book online on our website and ask for a personalized note. And then when either of them come in, they can sign it specialized for you. So that's a fun treat. And with that, thank you for joining Grassroots. Thank you, JS, for joining us for this event tonight. Thank you, Rosiee, for being an awesome co-host.
Lovely
Anytime.
questions.
And have a lovely evening.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.